Hello everybody, St. Caddy back here again. Some people know I own old consoles, particularly this old man here to my right. This is the family computer, or Famicom, the Japanese version of our sideways toaster we call the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES for short. This model is probably the most common one made, with the round buttons for the A and B, as you can see there. Early ones actually had square buttons. If you can find one of those, they're pretty cool to come across. This console is so old, however, it doesn't have the RCA connectors, the three-prong boys that we're all so used to as kids. I have them here, basically just simplistic stuff here. It's, right-left video, as it's known by. Or in some cases known as writing video, if you're so lucky to just have mono. So this console only had RF. I'm sure some of you recall, needing the gray box to hook up to your TV. The coaxial in the back, the antenna in the back. This console came with a special box that you had to connect it yourself. For instance, this actually, you could put a coaxial at the end of this, or this also has the same antenna prongs that you find on the back, which you then connect that to the back of your TV with another special two-prong cable to then connect to the TV and then use it. These days, coaxial and antenna connections are rare, since analog was cut off at the knees for years ago and for digital. But some TVs, like this silver guy to my right, does still have it. And if you still have the box, or actually what I have to bypass the big thing, this connector here, actually I can use to bypass all that stuff, because it just plugs in with one and then to a coaxial. I'll link this down in the description down below, by the way, if you want to get a pair of those. They come in a pack of 2. And it'll be fine, since you've still got a TV that channels that likely then, basically, because it has a TV antenna in it then. But what about if you don't have that, or how do you connect to then use it to your PC, for instance? Well, I'm sure that's why you're here, and I will answer that now. You've seen 3 things needed already. The others we'll get to as we go along here, I guess. So to do this, you will need also another sort of, RCA type AV connector as well. And as an alternative here, just to point out quickly, you can bypass most of the steps I'm about to do with a sort of like a coaxial to HDMI converter. They exist these days, but those can cause lag, so take that as it is. And honestly, they will cost you a little bit to get those sometimes. I do have another piece of ancient technology here in my possession from the ancient times of the 1980s, and that is a VCR, which you can find around your house if you're old as dirt, apparently. Thanks, kid. Or sometimes just as at a Goodwill or such places that sell old electronics for cheap, basically. And I got that for very cheap, actually. A VCR can be used as a pass-through to a TV for another device like a console or some other things that come across, because even as you can see, this is a combo VCR DVD player, as you saw just now. So actually, that's pretty cool, because that means this actually has component. If you can look in here, it actually has component cables, the blue, the green, and the other red involved. So actually, this is pretty useful for that alone. But again, the other purpose that I would have for this is over here on the other side of this. Those are coaxial in and out, and that's what we need here. So since this has the antenna that is in, and as you can see, there's still attached to the other end of what I showed you, still attached here, that is audio out. So the very fact that I have that particular out attached to this means I can use that, which this plugged into this, which this can go to something else, whatever you have. If you have a monitor that has that, or if you have something else that has that, or much like my RetroTink 2X Pro, which you can still buy. Very handy for retro consoles. Can be found online still. I will link these guys down in there below, because there's a lot of other great stuff that they have for many consoles, not just retro, but even beyond that into the PS2, 3, etc. that are really, really good, especially considering. Now, the RetroTink I just decided to put it down here. This can take component. As you can see, it still has all 5. But the fuel here, 1, 2, 3, can also be the red, green, the red, white, and yellow. You can plug that into here. And of course, this has HDMI out. So you can plug something into this. Then you need an HDMI out. Then you can plug it into your TV, your fancy monitor with an ungodly refresh rate, your smart fridge, whatever the hell you want to plug it into after that. Yeah. I mean, I've done that as well. I put it into the TV like that, and despite all the connections, I found that there's no input lag to speak of somehow, even though there should be some. And then the last question, one last piece of this puzzle is somebody said, how do you get this to your computer? Well, then you need something like a capture card, much like this one I have here, which I think is discontinued at this point, unfortunately, but this is an Elgato HT60S Plus, which can do up to 1080p, is very good, and of course, you can plug HDMI into it, much like the RetroTink puts out HDMI, and of course, it goes to the computer. Plus, you can also use out HDMI to whatever source you want to use it to, so that you can use it as a bypass, so you can then put it on your TV. You can play it from the console to the TV then. And you can plug it into your computer, and you can play stuff just like that. And you can use it in OBS, you can as a projector if you play it, and you can record it from then, much like I am right now, actually. As I said, you can just bypass it to your TV, so that's good enough. You can play it that way. It's a lot. I know, it's to top it off, to go back to the beginning of the chain of this here. The Famicom is set for a different RF, or radio frequency, than what we have here in America. So it will not work if you don't have that right. Typically that is around channel 95 and 96, much like we have 3 and 4, as we all may recall from days long past. Here, all you have to do is go to that channel, as some TVs just allow you to actually input that channel now, or you can scan an old TV, for instance, or like on my VCR here, I have the ability to just go through the channels, which again is a bit of a pain on this thing. But if I have it turned on here, switch some crap around, which it goes back here, then I can change to the channels all the way down. And then it gets to the way that you want it to be, which again, as I said, is 95, 96, depending on which slitter you have on the back. It's just 1 and 2 on the back of the Famicom. And poof, off you go, off to the races, as you just saw a second ago there. So, that's about it, and that's how I use it to get to this. I certainly hope that was helpful. I could go into more technical aspects of this if anybody wants to. I can certainly do that, but I think what we've done for now will suffice. So this has been Sankaitis signing off to go play some old games now. I won't even stream some of these. Until then, rock on, everybody.